Okay, first we're gonna make our crackle paint. So you need a white. You can use gel. I'm gonna use the Sugar Art Master Elite today. It's got the ingredients, titanium dioxide. That is what you're looking for. That is the white food coloring, and that is what works best. I'm just gonna put a couple little dashes in my little cup right here, and I'm actually gonna do 2. It has a little water in it, but that's okay. We're going to mix water anyway. So if you have a gel, just read the ingredients and make sure that it says the titanium dioxide on it, because some whites are not made with that. And then you're going to add a little water. So I just have a little spray bottle to add some water to it, and then I'm just going to mix it. If it's gel, you don't need to add any water to it. You can just use it as is. But since this is a powder form, it's water activated, and we'll get it into a kind of a paste gel paint form. Okay, so that's all you need for that. I am gonna do a little tiny bit of green food coloring for one of them. So I just need a little bit of green on my brush. Any gel or powder food coloring. It's spring, so I want it to be kind of pastel, but you can do this with any color. I've done blue before, purple, but you want the majority of it to be white. These are not going to be dark colors, they're going to be pastels. All right, we've got our eggs in the grass, we've got our plain eggs, and we've got some of our greenery crosses here, and we have our white crackle paint. Really, for this, you just want strokes. It's best to go in the same direction, because if the strokes show, then you don't want them all crazy. But all you do is paint it. And I am going to put grass in the bottom, so I don't really need to go all the way to the bottom, because I will be putting grass over that. So I'm just going to kind of imagine where the egg is going to be and paint it that way. You can use your white, or you can use your color to do a colored egg. So I'm going to do these 2 white, and then I'll do some colored ones too. And we're doing this on the raw cookie dough. So this is the raw cookie dough. I have not baked my cookies yet. We're doing this step before the baking step. So there's some of those. Now the cross is a bit more challenging. I don't want the greenery to be crackled. Now you could paint the whole thing and then just do greenery on top of the crackle, but I'm gonna use this stencil that shows where the actual cross is. So everything not covered is going to be let me zoom in a little bit. Everything not covered is going to be the greenery, basically. So it's going to fall, because this side follows it, but this side has the greenery, if you can see that right there. So I just want my cross to be white, so I'm just going to hold that down. And for this, I'm not going to use a stencil holder, but you can if you don't want to get all messy like I do. Sometimes it's easier just to... There you go. That wasn't bad at all. So this one is really an optical illusion with your eyes. It looks like, when you look at the cookie, you think like, what happened? Why is this side so short? But when you actually paint the cross on there, you can see it is symmetrical. It just has that greenery that is very deceiving to our eyes. You can do this in a color, or you can do it in white. I really like the white, so I'm going to do these white. And you can also draw it and try to stay in the lines. I just think plopping the stencil over it is easier. It's okay if everything's not covered, because you want it to be crackling. And as you see, it's already starting to dry. You'll see the crackle start to appear, but when you put it in the heat of the oven, it really comes out. So that's going to be super exciting. All right, this I have one more egg in the grass that I'm going to do before baking, and this one I am going to crackle the bottom green. So we've got a little bit of crackle grass effect, if you will. So I've got my green crackle here, and you have to use the white. The titanium dioxide is a must. You have to use it so you can mix the other colors in, but you can't do the colors straight unless they have that ingredient. So this is just a little bit off, and if I want to kind of make it look a little grassy, I can do that. And you see my grass, I don't really want it all in the same direction. I want to leave some markings on there. Okay, so you've got that. It's kind of hard to see the difference, but that pastel green is going to be a slightly different color for us. Now we can paint just some plain eggs in different colored crackles. Have fun with it, experiment. Lighter colors are going to be a little bit better than the darker colors, but you definitely want to play. Here's a purple one or lavender one that I did. This is already baked, so it's a little overbaked, but this one's already baked. And then this is a plain white one that we've already done. So you can do lots of colors. This is a blue, but I had green on my brush, so it's kind of a turquoise. So that's exciting. And that's all. You're just gonna paint the rest of these and have fun with it. As soon as my cookies come out of the oven, I do what I call ironing the cookie. I have a fondant smoother, and I literally make an ironing motion over my cookies. Even on my crackle ones, because we are gonna stencil some of these, I wanna make sure they're nice and flat. So you will get a little bit of poof rise, and at least I do in my cookies, and so you'll wanna do that. But didn't that crackle just come out beautiful? I'm so excited. Okay, we've got 2 parts of the color, the titanium dioxide, and 1 part cornstarch. And we want to get it in that paint gel consistency, which will be a little thicker with the cornstarch. I'm going to just paint it on. I feel like the oven crackle does get a better effect, but if you forget to do it, you can do it this way. And hit it with a heat tool. You'll see that it's got a much smaller crackle effect than when you bake in the oven, but you're still going to get that effect. All right, we're going to do the color crackle. Just going to put it up here with the after baked. I'm going to do a little bit of peach, and it's 1 part titanium, 1 part cornstarch and 2 parts titanium dioxide, and this is going to give us the finer crackle. We'll do a colored one. We're just going to hit it with heat tool. To give that fine crackle effect. Alright, we've got a stencil holder here, and then we are going to put our crackle stencil down and encase it in there. We're going to start with the egg and do the all over crackle. You're going to use about a toothpaste or thick, thicker consistency of icing. Just put some on your scraper. We're just going to put it on the majority of the cookie and then scrape away gently until you can see the design. And we do want some white on there, so I don't want to scrape too much away. I'm going to put a little bit more on the sides. It doesn't have to be perfectly even because it is going to be the crackle effect. And then we're just going to pick the stencil straight up, and this will be easier the more you brush away, but I wanted a kind of thick consistency on there. So where I've gone over, I'm just going to use the back side of my scribe tool, my thingamajiggy, and clean up the edges. And there we have a bit of a crackle effect, and we're going to let that one dry. Alright, for this one we are going to line up the cross stencil, and it honestly doesn't matter which one you put down first. I actually think I want to put the crackle first. But you can try either way and see what you like. You kind of have to make sure your cookie is where your stencil is and not the other way around this time, because we are using the holder. But this will help us to get the crackle just on the cross portion and not all over the cookie. And again, we're going to lift straight up. And then take your back of your thingamajiggy scribe tool and clean up any edges that need cleaning. So that's another cool way to get that crackle effect. And then we're going to let that one dry as well. This egg we're going to flood. So you've got your tipless bag filled with your white flood, one seam, face the ceiling, and cut perpendicular across it, however big or small you want your hole. You can always make the hole bigger, but you can't make it smaller, so make sure you take that into account. Just going to pipe my line. The bottom doesn't matter as much because we are going to do grass down there, but we want to make sure we fill in the egg portion. Alright, for this one we're going to go ahead and line up the stencil with the outside of the cookie, and then the other side we're going to trace. I'm using a yellow edible marker so that it's a little lighter, and hopefully you won't be able to see it. Or you can use something similar to whatever color you're flooding if it's not in white. You can do colored or you can do white. Either one is fine. I'm going to do the cross white, and I'll do another one colored, and then probably another egg in color. So do whatever you want. These are going to be for our stenciled on top crackle. So I'll follow the line that I drew, and then I will follow the cookie for the other side. And then you're going to flood it in. I'm using one consistency, but you use whatever is comfortable for you. If you like to use two consistencies, there's nothing wrong with that. When we are going to stencil, you're going to want to get as flat of a cookie. So as I showed you in the beginning of the video with the baking, you're going to want to iron your cookies and make sure they're nice and flat. And then for your icing, you're going to want to make sure that that's nice and smooth as well. There you go. We'll let that dry. Okay, so we've got our flooded background and our crackle stencil. And we're just going to lightly airbrush in white. You could do this in pearl, you could do this in silver, any color that you want over. So that's a different way to get your crackle. Okay, we're gonna do one more white crackle. I've got the crackle, and then I've got the cross. And we're gonna line up our cross. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we don't really want to have crackle underneath our greenery. And then we're just gonna take the airbrush. And I've got white airbrush color again. Slow and steady. Better to do 2 slow coats than 1 heavy coat. If you do 1 heavy coat, you'll get the beading, and we don't really want that. You see how it's starting to bead over there? Because that was too heavy. We want nice and slow. Long strokes. Okay. You're gonna just lift straight up. You've got that beautiful crackle look. It's almost stained glass effect. It's really pretty. All right, this egg was flooded in white, so I'm not gonna do a white stencil on top of it. I'm going to do a light gold. Okay, we have one of our colored crackles. This was one of the fine crackles that we did with the heat tool. And then we have our Happy Spring stencil. You can use any stencil that you want that fits in there. You're gonna wanna do the stenciling part before you do the grass because you want your stencil to be able to lay flat on your cookie. So we wanna cover the entire design. And then you want to slowly scrape away until you can see the writing again. Okay. Like so. And if you see how that has a little bit of the pink coming through, I just want to cover that up. And I must have something on there. Let's catch it. There we go. Can see Happy Spring again, and I'm going to lift straight up. Okay, I just want to do a few more stencilings. So now here's your time to have fun, mix some colors in that toothpaste consistency, and then you'll just be doing the same procedure over and over. Different stencils, get creative. You can do more than one color on one stencil if you want. It's going to be a lot of fun, so play with it. You're just going to use your toothpaste consistency, cover the entire design, and then scrape away till you can read that design again, and then lift straight up. If you want to get a little fancy, you can go ahead and use some glitter. Before you lift your stencil, you're going to leave it down, swipe, and then spray your glitter, and then lift straight up. This helps the glitter go just where your stencil design is. All right, we are ready for some greenery now. I'm pretty excited about this. So for the cross, we are going to make our vine first. I have a number 3 tip. Kind of just curves along the side and over top. All right, and then if you want to use a coupler, I just warn you, not all tipless bags are created equal, and Sheer Celebrations bags are thicker, so they can handle a coupler without busting, but not all of them are that same thickness. So just be aware of that and careful. You can also use regular pastry bags if you are going to use a coupler and a tip. or you can just drop the tip in some bags as well. I used a couple of this time so that we can switch our tips out and do different things. So that was the number 3. This one's going to be the number 349, which is a small leaf tip. And we're just going to make some leaves down the vine here. I'm going to start from the bottom. Kind of where this is, and I can always kind of finagle them. They're not perfect. I'm not wiggling, I'm just doing single leaves on a vine. I don't want really long tropical leaves, I just want single leaf. Here I want a little longer because I want it to follow the shape of the cookie cutter, and then this one's going to go right on the top, and then we're going to come down the other side. So that one is going to be a little longer, and they'll get shorter as we go down. One. It's a very simple cookie and a very classic cross. It's very nice. So I'm going to switch back to my vine and do another vine on this one. And I'm going to leave this just as is, a very simple cookie. That is what I want. This is a great design for people who don't necessarily like a lot of icing. Put some leaves right there and switch out my tip. Oops. And you just want to make sure that your tip didn't get dried out in between. So you don't want to clean anything because your leaf won't be the right shape if it's got a clog there. So you can always do like a little test leaf on the side. Make sure everything's kosher. And again, I like to flip my cookie upside down because it's a little easier to pipe the leaves towards me. Apologize if you hear crying in the background. We've got some new neighbors here in the shop plaza, and it's been interesting. So there you have the crosses, and now we're going to put some grass. There are several ways that you can do grass. So I'm going to move those a little off the screen. I'll leave one on the screen just so you can see it. But we'll get a good shot of them at the end. So you can use the number 3 and just do individual blades of grass. You can pipe and flood and do like a solid grass, or you can use a grass tip. So we're going to show a couple different ways. So let's first do the number 3. And I'm going to trace it first. And just do, you can use a stencil if you want, but I'm just going to do kind of a grass outline. And then you could flood this in with flood consistency. Now I have a piping consistency. I am going to flood it with it, and we are going to give it some dimension. But you can always do a flood and have a smooth here. It just depends on the look of the cookie and what you want. But my icing has enough give to it that I can probably make it lie smoothly with just a little bit of connects there. Gives it a cool look. And then we can shake it too. So you can do the flooded look. Then you can make your flood consistency a little more flood than I did, but you get the idea. I love it. I love it with a little bit of dimension in it. So that's one way to do the egg grass. Another way to do the egg grass is just to do individual blades of grass with the number 3 tip. And again, I think I'm going to do it upside down. It's going to be a little easier to pull towards me. They don't all need to be the same. They don't all need to start from the bottom. They don't all need to go straight. And this one you want to layer on top, and you do need it thick enough so that you can layer on top and it doesn't meld together. So definitely a piping consistency. So this is a number 3 tip, so it's a thicker grass blade. I'm going to do a few little short ones in the front. And then you can always clean that edge up right there. And that is going to be look number 2 with some grass with the number 3 tip. And then the last look is going to be with our 133 grass tip, which is going to give you the same kind of effect, but it's going to be multiple lines coming out at once. Again, I'm going to flip it over. This is one of our stenciled ones. And you can go either way with this. And that, as you can see, makes it a lot faster. So if you're cranking out a lot of these designs, the grass tip is going to be very helpful. Isn't that cool? And then right on the grass, we're just going to stick a couple little flower heads. And you can pipe different colored centers in them if you'd like. Or you could just use the green as well. And it makes a nice cohesive center. And you're barely gonna squeeze anything, just a little bit in the center of each one. And of course you can put, you can stencil again. Once that one's dry, you could stencil before the grass and put a saying on it, or you can just leave the crackled egg in the color. It looks really nice. This little guy that we're gonna add some grass to him. And I'm gonna do it with my favorite grass tip. And if they are too thin or fragile and they break, you don't have to use them. But try to get your icing nice and thick. Oops. And then I'm just going to do little centers on them. Again, you could do the centers in any color that you want. I'm just going to use the same green. Tie it all together. You could do white, you could do purples and pinks and yellows just like you have the flowers. It's your cookie. There we have a nice little spring. Thank you so much for joining my tutorial. I hope you learned a ton about Crackle effect and more, and stenciling, and I cannot wait to see what all of you create with all of these techniques, and I can't wait to see your twist on the Crackle effect and all of your stenciling skills.